Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We'll get started in just a minute as we give folks just a few more moments to join. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon Serrato, and I'm the Director of Engagement here at Cradle-to-Career. And we are so glad to have you all with us today for a conversation around the first phase of what will be C2C's Query Builder and the underlying data that power the Student Pathways dashboard. But before we jump into today's session, I want to go over a bit of housekeeping. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the Cradle-to-Career YouTube page, as well as posted to the Cradle-to-Career website under our meetings and community conversation pages in the coming days. Equity and accessibility are central to our work, and our meetings are available in the languages needed for the populations that we serve. I'm going to put a pin on that. We've got to ask for you later today. Thinking about language, so just remember this. But to that end, today's meeting is closed caption enabled. So to turn on captions, click the three dots to the far right bottom of your screen and select captions. You can also select your preferred language by launching the CC button at the bottom of your screen. And we are once again glad to have Spanish interpretation for today's session offered, with a big thanks to Julie Conde for joining us this afternoon. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Julie for just a few instructions on how to enable interpretation for today's session.
Thank you so much, Shannon. This will be in Spanish. Buenas tardes a todo el mundo y por favor note que la interpretación y los servicios de interpretación van a estar ofreciéndose aquí hoy para la sesión. Para escuchar el programa en español, por favor seleccione el icono del globo, el globito allí en la parte inferior de su pantalla que dice Interpretation en inglés, ¿ok? Luego seleccione su idioma Spanish o español. De ahí, usted va a poder escuchar todo el programa en español. Muchas gracias, and thank you much.
Thank you so much, Julie. So with that, while participants are muted for today's meeting, if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them any point today in the chat. But if you have a specific question this afternoon that you really want answered, please make sure to drop it into the Q&A so we can see it before the tail end of today's session. And finally, I want to highlight again, as always, that we're utilizing the community guidelines that we created with you, the public, to guide today's meeting. We want to foster a brave and respectful shared space, and we appreciate your commitment to creating community with us today. Next slide, please. Okay, so as always, we like to know about each other. So first, we're going to get into C2C quickly. The California Cradle-to-Career Data System was named in state legislation to be California's source of actionable data and research on education, economic, and health outcomes for individuals, families, and communities. C2C is envisioned to be the most inclusive data system of its kind in the nation, and we employ a three-pronged approach of community engagement, such as this, to inform the development, interpretation, and awareness building about the data system. We're scaling tools to support college planning and transition, and we've built an analytical data set on education and job outcomes. So for more information on that, if you're interested, we have a handy infographic available on the C2C site, accessible via this bit.ly/C2C-1-_pager. And Angelique's dropped it in because I already fumbled the URL. Okay, next slide, please. So that is enough about us. Time for the fun part. We want to hear from you. We hold community conversations to have a direct line of communication with the public, and we want to learn more about who's joining us today. So we have some questions for you. First, please share your name, job role, and where you're joining from today. I'm going to open up my chat. And it always takes a little while for folks, and then the floodgates come, so I will just model again. I'm Shannon Serrato, Director of Engagement here at Cradle-to-Career, and I'm joining from very warm Oakland today. Don't let the sweater fool you. I'm just doing it for the look. It's hot. We've got AJ Johnson with California Competes joining us. We've got Tina from San Luis Obispo. Thank you so much for joining us. Gerardo, I missed already. Amanda with San Jose Public Library. Very cool. Brian Grady, Assistant Executive Director for Labor Market Information. Did I see South Carolina? Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I see Jason Henderson, California Edge Coalition, Kira Mann, Cynthia Forland, Jennifer Caban, also from Oakland. Welcome, welcome. Gabriella Lomelli, CSU East Bay. Okay, keep those coming because I definitely want to make sure that we know who's in the room with us today. I'm going to go back to the chat when we have a little bit more time, but we'll move on to question 2. Is this your first community conversation? Are you a first timer or are you a regular attendee? And also, what are you most looking forward to today? Zach, you are a first timer. Welcome. Thank you, Zach. Carol, also a first timer. Zach wants to know how to help foster youth. Awesome. Anna Wilkie says, my first convo, excited to learn more about the querying data and how to leverage the tool. Lynn says she's a first timer. Saz, looking forward to seeing the Query Builder tool. Roy, looking forward to, it moved on, Roy. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to see what you're looking forward to in a second. Lauren says, not my first time. Erica says, I think this is my first time. And John Massey, San Bernardino County Superintendent School in Greater Inland Empire. Sarah Fox, first timer. Looking forward to seeing opportunities for multilingual learners and their families. Welcome all the first timers. Thank you again for seeing so many similar faces. It's great to have people from different experiences join us today. Thank you for investing your hour with us. And finally, we've got one last question, a fun one. What's the best work-related book that you've read or podcast that you've listened to? I will just share that we have an internal digital library here at Cradle-to-Career where folks have shared their book recommendations, article recommendations, podcasts. We are a team full of learners and we love to know what other people are interested in, what they're thinking about as we engage in this work. So please drop your thoughts into the chat. While you're thinking about that, I will start. You can't see with my background, but I've got Design for Belonging here from Susie Weiss, how to build inclusion and collaboration with your communities. This is apropos for today. I basically use this as my Bible. I think I bought it maybe 2 weeks after I started Cradle-to-Career, but it really is thinking about how we can think about inclusivity and belonging when thinking about the broader populations. Specifically, I'm thinking about Californians, you all the time. So I use that book all the time. Okay, so we've got some Brene Browns in the chat. Stacy Lloyd's blog, Sold a Story podcast, new episode just dropped. 2 Sold a Story. So that sounds like we need to check this out for sure. A Rage for Justice, The Passion and Politics of Philip Burton by John Jacobs. A book, Better by Atul Gawande. Equity Leadership Now. It's a great podcast from Cal's leadership programs. Class, Stephanie Land. Brene Brown again. Dare to Lead. I took a course, you guys, Dare to Lead course over the summer, and I'm a believer. So I'm with you there. Brian's laughing because he's been telling me about Brene Brown for like 2 years, 3 years straight. Anyway, so thank you for that. Thank you. We can move on to the next part of our conversation. We're going to dive into today's agenda. And thank you all just again for the recs. I think we've got a million more podcasts and books to listen to. So I really look forward to that. But first, we're going to give a quick update on what we are up to at C2C. We know that folks like to hear what we've been up to at the office, and it's been a little while since we last spoke. So I'll give a few quick updates, and then we're going to get into the heart of today's session. The first phase of C2C's Query Builder, which includes background and a quick demo. Then we'll have a few questions from you before we open it up to Q&A before the close of the day. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, we have a full community conversation as always, but I'm very excited to share a few key updates from C2C. So just a few weeks ago, we celebrated the 4th anniversary of when the legislation that established C2C was signed into law. We were glad to be recognized by the governor's office with a press release that noted the massive strides that the office has made to connect available data and existing information to the students who can use it to leverage their careers. And that really got me excited and my wheels turning, thinking about how we can do more work as we get closer to our 5th year anniversary. So we've already got some ideas up our sleeves. So stay tuned for that. You'll hear about it in about a year, but just very exciting. And in other news, earlier this month, we had an op-ed from C2C advisory board member and UC Berkeley student Mike Nguyen run in the Hechinger report. And the op-ed highlighted Cradle-to-Career and the necessity of tools like the Student Pathways dashboard. We are very grateful to member Nguyen for sharing his story of navigating the road to college as a first-generation college student. And we've dropped that link into the chat. I really encourage you all to check it out. Next slide, please. If you tuned into last week's governing board meeting just last Friday, you heard that we are hard at work at finalizing our annual report to the legislature that is due annually September 1st. So every year we provide an update to the governor and to the California State Legislature on the progress that we make each year and on the implementation of the data system. But it's a 40-page report, so we want to make it accessible and easier to digest for the public. So we provided a high-level overview of the report by the numbers. You may have seen that on social media last week, but we will be doing a broader release in early September on that. So if you're excited about that, I'm excited about it. Stay tuned. We'll have more dropping soon. And finally, I am happy to preview our next community conversation topic and upcoming project. We're really looking forward to this, our first lesson plan challenge. Advancing data literacy is a key priority for the office, and as we work to make sure as many Californians as possible have access to and can use our tools, we're exploring innovative ideas for reaching communities. So very soon, we'll launch our lesson plan challenge, which will encourage educators across the state to integrate C2C's Student Pathways dashboard into instruction, enabling students, educators, and communities to interpret education and career pathways data and insights, build data literacy while centering the student experience and exploring data. We've got some really fun things in the works for this, and we can't wait to share more with you soon, but you'll hear from us. The community conversation for this is scheduled for September 24th, so we'll be sending out information on that shortly. And with that, that concludes my updates from the office. So I'm glad to hand it over today to C2C's Director of Data Programs, Ryan Estriato, to kick off today's conversation.
Thanks, Shannon. I appreciate it. And hi, everybody. It's nice to be here together again for this community conversation. In a moment, I am going to be handing it over to Jeff Gold, who is going to preview and walk you through both our process and the designs for these flat files, which we hope are a big step towards the first version of the query builder. But this whole thing that we do with you is about being in community with you in this work. And because of that, I really wanted to share with you where we've been at with our thinking on this particular product, but also in work in general. This is something new. It's a new product, but there are some different things about the way we are thinking about it and conceptualizing it. And I want to put this out there in front of you for context. So when you compare this to the Student Pathway Dashboard, it's different from the Student Pathway Dashboard in terms of it being a different product. It does build off of the data from the Student Pathway Dashboard. But if you think about the way that design experienced worked and the way that we experienced that together, if you've been through that journey with us and sort of been here, longer, and this is not your first community conversation, you'll remember that we shared some initial wireframes of the Student Pathway Dashboard to help you imagine what we thought this should look like. And then we began building it while collecting feedback along the way. And then after we were done building it, we launched it, the first version of it that happened in April, and then you got to use it. And that was the chance that you got to dive into the Student Pathway Dashboard and experience this thing that we had been working on together. What we're going to show you today, which is the flat files for the Student Pathway Dashboard and a way to organize them and download them, has a lot of similarities in the sense that we're going to show you the initial designs today, just like we did for the Student Pathway Dashboard. We have started building it with feedback, just like the Student Pathway Dashboard. But here's what's different. It's really important. Something new that we're trying is that this time we are going to release components of this incrementally to you, our audience, and our community so that you can use the resource right away once we release it, rather than waiting, and instead of waiting for the full product to be released, or so let me say it differently, the most fully featured version of this product. So you get it sooner. And then as we release improvements to it and additions to it, you'll get those sooner too. So just zooming out, much of this is the same in terms of the way we think about design and getting feedback. But what you'll notice is different about this is our aim is for you to not have to wait to get to use it the way that you did with the student pathway dashboard. There are lots of good reasons sometimes for products to have that kind of longer period of time in development. But this we feel, at least initially, is one where we want to do this faster. Next slide, please. Okay, so the idea that these flat files, or this first step towards the query builder, should complement the student pathway dashboard is an idea that came directly from the community. So going back to April, we launched the student pathway dashboard. And as we do, began collecting or continued to collect feedback on this. And there was a pattern of feedback that we detected almost immediately after we released it, which is that more experienced data users and researchers came to us and said, hey, it's great that you can download filtered flat files on the student pathway dashboard. But if I want all of the districts and all of the demographic information, that means I would have to go through and separately download every combination of the drop-down filters in order for me to get something complete. And I think for context, this like our team sort of looked at what that would take, and it's like in the thousands, the number of combinations that you would have to do. And this group and this sort of audience of people wanted to know, wouldn't it be great if rather than having to do that, we can have it all in one place, formatted in the way that this sort of kind of data user profile would need it. And so that's what we've done. And what we hope to do with this initial release is two things. First, that we have a chance to rapidly respond to that kind of feedback. So to not have to wait too long before we can put something together and give it to them, still have it meet our high standards for design and usability, but to be able to say, like, that's a really great idea. We can see the use case for it. Here it is. That's goal number one. And then the second is knowing that we want a more fully featured and interactive query builder, that we take this as an opportunity to take a good positive step towards that, but do it in a way that we're incrementally adding to it so that you can use it and not have to wait until the final step where we have a query builder that has more data, but also ways to interact with it. So that's some context, different way of thinking, similarities to student pathway dashboard in terms of design, different release cycle and why we think that's important. And also a big thank you to you for telling us what you need, because now we have that information. We have a chance to be able to act on that. And with that, I am now going to give it to Jeff Gold, who is going to be walking you through the version of this project itself. Take it away, Jeff.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Hello, everyone. And Ryan, as you mentioned, we're committed to a user-centered design process. And that really starts with knowing our audience, knowing you. Over the past 6 months, we've gone out and talked with a lot of different people. We held focus groups, we did user testing, we conducted interviews, we had conversations with a variety of folks from nonprofits, from the various education sectors, with a few researchers and several advanced data users as well. And our goal was simple. It was to listen and to learn. And honestly, I'm always surprised by how much you learn when you conduct tests like these. We discovered that some of our original assumptions weren't exactly true, which is often the case. People didn't just talk about the features they wanted, they also talked about what they value in a tool like this. And you can see on the slide a couple of examples on the right side there of query builders. We looked at models like these, but our focus was really on what our users needed and what they were telling us. And I would say overall, one theme that we heard loud and clear was that while our users were excited about an interactive query builder, the kind of things you see there, They didn't want to wait months for that functionality, as Ryan had mentioned. Instead, they wanted direct access to the flat files now so that they could dig deeper into the data and generate insights like right away. So that urgency is what helped shape the foundation for this first phase. And let's go on to the next slide. You probably noticed that we keep saying, or I keep saying, this is phase one, and I assure you that's intentional. That's because we're starting small. Our vision is to build a full interactive query builder over time, but we're not looking to build it in a vacuum. This first step lets us put something useful in your hands now, while giving you the opportunity to shape what comes next. So the idea is really to launch, listen, learn, and adapt, as you can see on the slide. And your feedback will directly drive how the tool grows and what future phases look like. So when you think about this release, think of it as a conversation starter. It's really like the beginning of an ongoing dialogue where your input helps to guide us in delivering something that meets your needs. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about what's included in phase one. We've organized the downloadable data files by the same research questions that inspired the Student Pathways data story. That way we have a clear connection between the dashboards that you've already seen and the underlying data that you want to work with. One big difference, though, is that unlike the dashboard views, these flat files are flexible. They're certainly more flexible than what you can pull out of the dashboard. You can compare across groups. You can merge with your own data sets. You can run your own analyses with the data, and I'll show you about that in a minute. The files are available in both Excel and CSV formats, and we've included clear documentation so you'll know exactly what each field means and what you're looking at. Next slide. Okay, so let's take a little break from the slides for a minute and jump in to see what this really looks like on the ground. What I'm about to show you, what you're about to see, is a preview of the Query Builder's first phase, but I want to be clear, it's not quite live yet on our website, but it's the design that we've built so far. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I always cross my fingers and hope that this will work, and it is working, I think. So terrific. Okay, so you're looking now at what we have developed so far. Again, this is not live. You can see at the top some information. A lot of this, you have just received this information from us, but it gives the context for what these files are, why we've developed them, and how we've really listened to our audience in developing them. Walking you through, as I scroll down, you'll notice some guiding graphics that are parallel to what we have in the Student Pathways data story. The first of which is the entire set of data files in one large zip file. So if you wanted to take all the files together at once, you could click the zip button. It would give you all those files. And again, some of these are very, very big files. So they're all together for convenience there. And then you can see as I scroll down, each one of the questions that drive the student pathways data story, they're all here as well. And just to give an example, each one has a button to download by CSV, by an Excel, and also the documentation, a PDF that will explain those different fields for you. So let me just walk through real quickly. If I click the Excel file here, you can see in the upper right corner that the file downloads. I can open it, or I can hope I can open it. There we go. And hopefully you're seeing here the entire data set here for that question. So for the enrollment file that underlies the Student Pathways data story, you can see all this information here. And as I scroll down, you can see it's a pretty robust data set. I'm upwards of 150,000 rows. And just a couple things to point out, it allows you to disaggregate. You can see here by race. I remember that there was someone in the
Jeff,
meeting. Yes.
sorry, quickly, I'm just noting that folks are saying they are not seeing, are you all seeing the screen that shows the C2C website, just so I'm clear?
Yes, I think, Jeff,
Thank
you may need to share like your full screen instead of just the browser
Oh,
tab.
I thought I did. Let me do that again. Thank you for letting me know. Let me try it again. So let me go back to the spreadsheet. I think everyone saw. If you need me to go back to the main website, I can do that too. I'm sharing the spreadsheet now. Thumbs up if you can see it from my colleagues. Okay, great. And my apologies for that. So this is the large data file that we downloaded for enrollment. You can see there's the district information, the cohort years. We can see gender, race, ethnicity. I think there was a colleague on the line that talked about wanting to see foster youth status. We have that in here as well. The last thing I'll point out before turning over to Shannon is this column here. C is the district type or the LEA code. That's something that we've added in to make it that much easier for you to merge files. So for some of our more advanced users, you want to take this file and couple it with another file, maybe another CDE file to see even a bigger view. So let me stop sharing. Again, apologies for missing out on that first part. But in summary, what I just probably the big takeaway here is that our desire and our continued commitment to listen to you to get feedback about where we should go and where we should take this in the future. With that, let me turn over to Shannon, who's going to conduct the next level of on-the-ground user research by asking you several questions. Shannon?
Absolutely. I'm going to now try to take over. For my end, let's do this. Okay. So that was a great preview. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ryan, for your thoughts and background on this first phase, as we keep saying. So I know that that was a lot of information in a short period of time, but as always, we really want to make sure that we are engaging with you all early and often. So we just share this information. You give yourself a little bit of time to process. I'm taking a little bit of time to pause as we see the questions on the screen, but we'll be doing some question asking now via poll everywhere. So you can use the QR code that is on the screen, but you can also access that at the link here, pollev.com/Cradle-to-Career California 654. The QR code may be more helpful today, and it is definitely accessible via your mobile device. So just wanted to note that. But as you just heard, really our goal for this very first iteration is to make the underlying data available to you all, to the public, as soon as possible. That is our key goal. We know that there's a lot more in the works to be done, but we heard early and often that people really wanted to touch the data, and there were so many permutations that they really needed something more accessible. So we're working through that now. So first and foremost, I'm going to ask, how do you see yourself using the resources in your work? I feel like someone may already say that they may be thinking about foster youth data. So that's a great thing to be thinking about. But while you're thinking about your responses, and I'm going to get to poll everywhere soon, I will say that we've heard from folks that they were interested in using these data for things like data walks that are focused on communities and regions. And we'd be glad to help facilitate that work as we think about making these efforts scalable and replicable for the public. That is the key goal for my team, the engagement team this year, training and outreach, making sure that we are now engaging with the communities now that these first tools are going to be available, and making sure that most people know about them. So bear with me. I'm going to switch over to poll everywhere now. Okay. So we've got some responses, and I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom because I didn't expect them to be coming in so quickly. We've got some thoughts on research, adult learner enrollment, completion, and success. Hopefully student parent data soon is an added field. I know student parent data. We've got a lot of folks in the line. I can only imagine. I think that there's at least two people that I can think of off the top of my head who would be excited for that. So thank you for those thoughts. Seeing outcomes for students across the state, English learners if available, to inform policy and advocacy work, campus level data and regional looks, district looks, helping coordinate work to support foster and homeless youth in California. I want to see the demographics of the district my program serve, assessing impact in post TK-12 achievement in districts, helping educate legislatures, or the legislators. Data equity walks depends whether and how data includes or how it can be disaggregated for adult school students. Philanthropic strategies, engaging communities, helping us match degree attainment to labor market needs in our region, can potentially be used to compare local data, either statewide. Data comparison. I'd use it to share insights about the region for our local high school area and middle schools and the two counties that I cover in Alameda and Contra Costa, help my EAP efforts. And we could potentially connect these data, hopefully more from C2C, even at these disaggregated level with K through 12 data to help districts understand what is helping, what has happened to students after high school. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate those thoughts. And some of this also dovetails into this next question. So you all have talked about how you would like to share your data, but as I mentioned, we really want to make sure that we are providing a broader lens to those who aren't your average data wonks, and you all as trusted messengers can be serve as like the intermediary between those folks. And so how can we help your communities better understand what the data says about their region and demographics? I mean, you've all touched upon this, but like, what are some tangible things that we could be doing again in this next year? This is really a focus of my group, my team, thinking about how we can reach more folks. So I'm just gonna try to switch over to that question now. Okay, it didn't work because I hadn't switched over yet. So I'm gonna give you time to pause, apologies. And now I'm gonna go back to the chat because I've been missing that. So while folks are commenting, I'm just gonna try to review what's been coming into the chat. Thank you all. Okay, I see that people are asking and we've got some responses from the team. Let's just make sure that this is working. Okay, so grants for funding, training and capacity building. Thank you. Support training and sessions. I'm going to tease this next question out shortly, so thank you for that. Again, maybe this is a longer form thought, especially as we think about how this is just the beginning versions and the preliminary parts of this work. So if these are things that we should be noodling on, please make sure that you reach out to us. There's plenty of opportunities. Let's see, training related to questions that we want answered, provide regional training for educators, businesses, government execs, etc. Assessing community need, diverse trainings across the state, conferences, landscape needs, improvements, or shifts over time. We could prepare specific reports or visualizations to respond to questions. Amazing. Training on data and the implications of the data. And then what does this look like for middle school? I believe that's just a question. So that will be a part of somebody from the data programs team can check in about, you know, middle school data, what that looks like. But thank you for these thoughts. Okay, please feel free, Poll Everywhere will be live. It will still be up, but I'm going to stop sharing this part of the presentation and go back here. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for that feedback. We really do appreciate it. And this kind of feeds into this next part where we're talking again about what's coming next. You all have been asking already, like, what is coming, what is happening? So again, you all have heard the resources will soon be available to the public, and the initial release will focus on making the underlying data for the student pathways data story easily accessible for the public very quickly. Facilitating data literacy through companion materials such as tutorials, use cases, and explainers is a goal for us. We will make sure to have that out upon release. But during this time, we will also be making sure that we're honing in on user needs and engagement as we iterate on the tool. So this is where it is really, really important for you all and the people that you work with to share what's working, what's not working, what you would like to see more of, because that really will inform future iterations of the tool. So to that end, once the release is out, you may have guessed it, once the files are out, we want to hear from you again. As part of this release, if you followed our Student Pathways launch, you know that on the bottom of your screen, we have a place where we're asking for feedback, and that will also be available on the Query Builder page, because we want to make sure that we are hearing from folks. So ultimately, one thing that we heard loud and clear was that not only do people want to use the tool, they want to know who is using the tool, that it is accessible again to many Californians, to all types of folks, not just those in the ivory tower. And I love those folks. Ivory towers are great, but we know that, you know, we can be reaching so many more people. So we really want to make sure that we can learn about who's using the tool so that we can really, as mentioned in other comments, that we can tailor and target information to them, reaching a diverse population in all of our efforts and resources. So as folks are using the tool, we also want to know how you're using it. We plan to share practical examples and use cases from the outset on the C2C site to help inspire users to see themselves in the data and to engage with it. So if you have analyses once these tools are live for you to touch, see, and feel, blog posts, write-ups, reports that you're creating, we want to hear about them. Alongside the feedback mechanism, there will also be an opportunity for you to essentially share your work, which we can amplify with our broader networks, have a central library on our C2C site so folks can see how they can engage with the tool and how can they better see themselves in the data That portal will be live on the site, so stay tuned for that. But just again, making an early plug. I will also share that you all are getting this first look, these first tools, but we'll be following up with this group specifically upon launch with a couple more questions immediately after this community conversation, because we really do take your feedback seriously. And then again, while these resources are targeted for folks who have some experience with data, we see this as an opportunity to advance data literacy, making the data actionable by getting into the hands of as many Californians as possible. So one of the things that we heard during our first preview for our advisory board members is that they had an appetite for a community-based network of folks who are doing this work, but really don't have a data team, or you are the data team of one, and really want to engage with others who are in a similar position. And so we're just beginning to explore what a community of practice could look like. But if you would like to be connected, feel free to access it on this bit.ly. Angelique, thank you very much. Just drop this into the chat. It's a quick sign up form. We just want to make sure that we are keeping track of folks who want to be connected. I really see this as something that is a true bright spot as far as C2C. There's a whole host of you all across the state who are really excited, really connected to this work, and we want to make sure that we are bringing all of the smart folks into the room together. So if that whets your appetite, please feel free to sign up, and we will be following up once resources are live. Okay. So with that, you all have answered my questions. Again, I'm going to pause. We're going to stop sharing. Well, maybe I'll keep the screen up, but this is the opportunity to answer any questions. And so let's see, do we have any questions in the Q&A? Heather, yes, student parent data. I knew you were one of them, Heather. Sorry, this is just a comment that was in the Q&A, so I just want to amplify this. And then Roy has asked, do we have an estimate release date? And we will plan to release this year. So again, stay tuned. And then I'm going to go to the chat again. Apologies, I'm trying to. Heather, no worries. I knew you were excited. I knew it was, I guessed it was you. Okay. AJ, are there other data sets they can be linked to, like how you mentioned CDE? I'm going to pause because some of these are not my questions to be answered. I'm going to look to my data programs team to see if we have any thoughts there. Oh, immediately after this, I see Ryan answered it. Sorry, apologies. I'm catching up. It says, good question. We've added the standard LEA code as a column for linking. Thank you, Ryan. I'm going to try to read this not out of order. Okay. Any other questions for today's conversation? Looking in the Q&A. And then this is just a note from our colleague, David, LEA codes can also be linked to counties. Something that folks had talked about, making sure that we can have a county-wide look, because right now you can only disaggregate, or you can only drill down by school district or legislative district. And we heard there is an appetite for a county view. So thank you for that note, David. Okay, gonna give a couple more seconds. AJ says it is nice to be able to see the ledge district. Thank you, AJ. You really worked hard at that. Roy has a question about data suppression. Anybody on the team want to talk about data suppression? It's hidden in the dashboard, as he's noted.
Yeah, I can address that. The flat files on what we are seeing today meet the exact same aggregation and suppression standards as the files that you can get on the student pathway dashboard today. Exact same.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. And then camera has a follow-up. Are those individuals suppressed, then not included?
So they are included in the data set itself, but not visible, if that makes sense. So they're not pulled out of the underlying data. They are there and counted, but not displayed if the requested display doesn't meet the suppression criteria. And I know my team is here too, so if there's anything about that I got wrong, please share.
Yeah, I think, and David Lang, also from our team, just put this in the chat too, that they would be like included like in a total count. So like if you have 100 students and there's a group of students, maybe there's only a few students in a particular like student population group. Maybe there's like less than 10 females, say, for example, like in the group, then we would not show that particular smaller group when there's less than 10, but they would still be included in the overall count.
Great, thank you. And you all are asking really great questions that I just want to again amplify. Once the release is out into the world, we will have an explainer, because again, we know that there are folks who work with data all the time, every day, but we also want to make sure that we are leveraging these questions to help others who may have similar questions or may not be as well versed in the data as you all are, really get to this next level. And so we will have some companion materials similar to the launch FAQs, those kinds of things, to really help folks access the data. John Watson, C2C Advisory Board member, says, when research questions are an option in the future, will those enable either identified or anonymized unitary level data?
I could take that one also. Something that we are working on that is not released yet is a research request process and related technologies. There are different levels of research request, and one of those levels is unitary data. But the vision for that level of research requests, so just to be clear, unitary data would require a whole different set of permissions from the data provider and other things, and then will also require that work on that level of data set happen in a secure compute environment. So it's a completely different set of requirements because it's individual level data. But that is the longer answer. The short answer is yes, anonymized unitary data is available in the future through that request process. But that is very different from this.
Great, thank you, Ryan. And then AJ, you had a twofer, which I see that Elizabeth has responded to, but just amplifying, are there research questions that you would like to see advocates start with? I will just say again, for folks, maybe this is your first time, C2C is a neutral source of data. So we make the data available to you all, but what you do with it is up to you. So if you have a pressing research question that you really want answered, because this is something that you and your organization, your team think about all the time, we want you to go and play around with the tool and help answer that. That is something that we're looking forward to, but we personally do not have those questions already in mind. It is up to you all to take the data and make it yours. So just want to say that. And then AJ also asked if researchers create something, will there be a repository for creation somewhere to view? Yes, we're working on a blog that we will be thinking about, and also some kind of repository. Ultimately, we want to have a research library live on the website when all of these things start coming through. Again, the caveats are that it will need to be vetted, that there may need to be updates made, so it's not going to just be you posted to the site and then it's up into the world next day. I will just say that from the outset, but the goal is to show folks that people are using these tools, that this is useful to them, that this is something that has helped you advance your work. And so the more that we can amplify that, the better. So absolutely, there will be ultimately a repository, but in the future immediate state, at least the blog will be doing some social media posts, those kinds of things at launch. So, or as the launch continues and people have some things that are trickling through. So just want to amplify that. There will be kind of a flow initially, but ultimately the goal, the dream is to have a central repository that shows how folks are using the data, reports, those kinds of things will ultimately live on the C2C site. Okay. Looks like the questions have died down. Seeing none, talking slowly. Okay, I think this is it for today. So thank you all for joining us. I just appreciate, again, all of this fruitful discussion. Thank you for helping us work through these initial conversations about the Career Builder tool and the underlying files and what's to come. You are all a part of our process, and we just appreciate everything that you do, making time for C2C. I think I've said this, if you join the committee or the governing board meeting, they asked what my favorite part of our By the Numbers and all the things was, and it was our community conversations. I truly love to engage with you all. I love to be able to hear your thoughts and hear how we can be shaping our tools for you, for the public. So I just want to say that y'all are amazing, and we just appreciate it at all points. So thank you. But if you have any questions, things that did not come up today, you can always email us at info@c2c.ca.gov. That mailbox I mentioned, as always, is monitored by humans, multiple humans now. So if you have questions, you probably will get a response from Angelique, Cynthia, myself in the coming days and weeks. So feel free to reach out to us. And as always, you can always sign up for newsletter under Get Involved. That is a way to access this information. And then also on that page, we will have the recordings, as I mentioned, C2C Get Involved /community conversations, as well as upcoming information about future community conversations, which is, a plug again for the September 24th lesson plan challenge. And then finally, I have a special request. You all heard from Julie early today, who has been providing live interpretation services in Spanish. So thank you, Julie, for joining us today. But also, we want to make sure that we are reaching as many populations as we can. And so we really need your help in helping us know the languages that you speak at home, or the languages of the communities who you work with speak, so that we can make sure that we are tailoring our services, our materials, our resources for them. So it's a quick survey at this QR code, and also available at this bit.ly, because we want to make sure that we're reaching as many people as possible. So please, if you have a quick minute or two, please take that survey. It will really help us as we think about our upcoming language access efforts in this next year. So with that, I just really appreciate you all joining us this Thursday afternoon. Again, I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your book recommendations. I appreciate all the follow-up you'll be hearing from us with the recording. There will be a quick survey again, just a preview. You'll get another survey, but we really want to make sure that we are delivering content that is useful to you. So we'll be asking you again for that. But again, just thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we hope you have a good rest of your week and a good weekend. Thank you.